It's all about immediate feedback with calling. Don't bullshit yourself. You don't want to imprint in your brain an elk sound that's not actually an elk sound. You want to imprint in your brain the actual sound. I used to deal with this when I was 13, 14 years old. Anybody around me, I drove crazy with duck calling, right? And I knew how to sound like a duck because I would literally go out into the middle of refuges with the recorder and record the duck sound, and then I would call to that duck sound, not a bunch of guys that were out there doing professional duck calling and duck calling championship. That's a human type of call, right? And the same thing with elk, right? You'll get a human type of cow elk sound. You'll get a human type of bugle. You want to do your sound replication off real life sounds. Let's listen. I love this. Alright, it's that time of year when we're trying to tune up our cow elk sounds. We're either experienced elk hunters and we just want to get back to sound like a cow elk, or maybe you're a new guy and it's going to be your first elk hunt and you just don't want to sound ridiculous, right? You just want to make some realistic cow elk sounds. Sometimes that can be intimidating, but I'm going to show you a trick in this video that gets you up the learning curve very quickly and will make you sound actually like an elk. I have no idea why this tactic is not broadly used because it works really well. Now guys, this isn't getting into the depth of tactics and what the sounds actually mean. You can get into that more as you learn about elk calling, but the first thing you need to do is just be able to make a realistic sound. The only exception to that is you have to know what alarm sounds sound like. So know what that bark sounds like, know what that concerned little whoop that bulls do is, just so you know what those are. Sometimes when you're learning the way that I'm going to describe here, you will hear alarm sounds. You obviously don't want to get into mimicking those, but that's easy. Just look up their alarm sounds and don't do them. You need your phone to record, and then you need YouTube on your computer. Go on YouTube and find real cow elk sounds. There's a bunch of them on there, 2 or 3 minute clips. A lot of them are domestic elk on feeders that are just chattering to each other, but they're nice, loud, real life cow elk sounds. Don't go out and listen to a bunch of hunters making cow elk sounds. That's not what you want for this exercise. What you want is real cow elk sounds. Turn your computer all the way up highest volume, turn the YouTube player all the way up highest volume, hit record on your phone and set it down close to your computer speaker. We're actually going to play this video and then we're going to call in the empty space. The first thing this allows you to do is have immediate feedback on your calling. Even just with your own ears, you're going to hear like, okay, I'm not quite matching that sound, and you'll adjust. You'll adjust very quickly. There's kind of just this natural ability. You'll be able to sense the emotion from the elk and you'll be able to transfer that in your calls and become very realistic. So let's try that a little bit and then I'll show you how to do a post-mortem on what we're doing here. Listen to these cows just a little bit before we start calling. Start off by just mimicking them. I like to watch them because even the way that the elk actually holds their mouth sometimes will help you with the tone and help you with the sound. Alright, so the real proof is right here when we play this back and listen to it. By just mimicking them. So I can tell, and I didn't pick this up when I was listening to the calling, when I was actually doing the calling, but when I listen to the recording, I can tell that my first note is a little high. It's a little unnaturally high relative to this cow. And cow elk all have a different voice, but this is similar. This is probably a little too high, that first note, and I'm picking that up here. It sounds a little more calf-like to me, but let's keep going here and see how I did. There I can take that real high punchy sound that I'm not hearing on those live elk and I can get that out of my call real quickly. Do that post-mortem and then do it again. do it again and again and again until it's almost impossible for you to distinguish your own elk sounds versus the live elk sounds. If you do this for 30 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day for a couple weeks, I guarantee you that you're gonna listen to that recording, and if you have the volume pretty close, you're gonna find that it's very hard for you to tell when you're calling and when the actual cow elk is calling. And one tip for you experienced guys, I don't want this video to just be useful to beginners, but for you experienced guys who've done a bunch of elk calling and you've been successful over the years, but you do other types of calling in other seasons, you need to go back and do this type of learning strategy here that I just described, if anything, just for a test. Because what I find, particularly after duck hunting or turkey hunting, what I'll do is I'll come back to elk calling and the tone of my calls will be much different. Particularly duck hunting. When you're duck hunting, you use a very tight jet of air out of your diaphragm. And what that equates to when you move back to elk calling is you're much more likely to make too high a sounds. But then when you're bugling, if you do this, you compare your bugles to real bugles. If you've been doing a bunch of goose calling where you're grinding, making that sound, your bugles are not going to sound realistic because all that goose calling is going to move over into your bugle and it's going to sound way too gritty in the beginning. You're going to have way too much rumble. It's not going to sound like a real elk. But the point is, if you're an advanced caller and you're calling across a bunch of different species, a bunch of different seasons, you still want to do this. You want to test your sounds against real elk because you'll be able to make some minor adjustments and get back to sounding exactly like them. And if you're an advanced caller and you have another way that you tune your calling up for the season, please leave it in the comments so we all know about it. But I cannot believe that more people don't do this. I guarantee you, if you've been struggling with calling, cow calling or bugling, you can do bugling the same way. If you do this, you'll run up that learning curve so fast, you will be amazed, right? It's amazing how well our minds work when we're actually listening to the live animals. There are very experienced archery hunters and archery guides out there that all they use is a very realistic cow chirp and cow mew. Those are the only two sounds they use, and they're not real technical about strategy. They just make a very realistic sound, and bulls come because the bulls want to hump them and they sound like that animal. So it works. Not all the time. Yes, there's a little incremental value to having very good strategy and know what you're doing and know what you're saying, but the big chunk of it is just making the nice realistic cow sounds. If you do that, you're 90% of the way. If you found that valuable, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Good luck out there, guys.